All right, so we are moving on to our next main topic in our first unit. And today is going to be all about combining like terms. So to start this out, we're going to do just a little bit of equation solving, just to kind of start to remember how we solve equations. And then we're going to move into like terms, combining like terms. So the difference today in our answers, for the most part, we're not going to be coming up with like an answer of 5. We're going to be coming up with another expression. So an expression might be 2x plus 7. Okay, so don't panic as we move forward in here, where we're coming up with letters and variables in our answers, not just numbers. All right, so let's start with these to do now today. You might need your Desmos calculator open to help you, but let's go ahead and solve these guys. So hit pause and see what you can do. Okay, so let's just talk about the thinking here. So I know -5 plus something is equal to -12. Okay, -5 plus something is equal to -12. So that means a number minus 5. So a number minus 5 has to be 12. Well, that's pretty easy because I know that number should be 17. Okay, so the math that happens is I'm actually adding 5 to both sides. I'm doing the opposite of what I see here. So -5 becomes +5. X is going to equal 17. Okay, now what about this one? -3 times some number. So -3 times W equals a -24. So what number times 3 gives me -24? -3 times 8. Good job. So I know W has to equal 8. And what I'm really doing here to figure that out is I'm dividing by -3. Okay, I'm dividing by -3. So as we move forward, we're going to see a lot of the inverse operations showing up. Okay, like terms. So let's start with some pretty simple, getting our heads wrapped around what are like objects. So how many suns do you see? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. How many fish do you see? 1, 2, 3. How many leaves? 1, 2, and 3. How about flowers? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many trees? 1, 2, 3. How about green items? Okay, green items. Well, green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I just combined like terms, okay? I combined like terms. I started by putting all the suns together and all the fish together. And then I made it even more broad and said anything that is green needs to go together. And I'm just adding, okay? I'm just adding. So here's another way to kind of think about this. And I like to talk about combining like terms as fruit salad, okay? I don't like fruit salad. So if I have apples and I have bananas, I'm going to put my apples together and my bananas together, but I am not going to put them in the same bowl, okay? They're going to be separate. They're going to be separate with an addition or a subtraction sign or a multiply or divide. We are not going to put them together and make fruit salad. So if I have 2a plus 3b plus 3a. Well, that 2a is really 2 apples. And the 3b is really 3 bananas. And then I have 3 more apples. Well, I know that these are like terms. So if I put 2 apples with 3 apples, that's really 5 apples, okay? They didn't change the kind of apple. The apple is still a red apple. All that changed is the number in front, or the coefficient. Okay, the coefficient is what changed. So we're going to be adding and subtracting the coefficient. The variables are going to stay the same. Okay, so here's kind of an example of just some different combining of like terms. Notice how these are all x's. So these are like terms, okay? I have a -3x, a 5x, and this is a 1x, even if there's not a number there, okay? It is understood that if there's a single letter, that is a 1. So I have 1 plus 5 minus 3. So 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. Well, it's not just the number 3, it's 3x. Okay, so the variable is going to drop down. All right, now let's come over here. I have 6x squared, 2x squared, negative 4x squared, and remember this is a 1. Okay, so I'm going to be adding the coefficients. So 1 plus negative 4, that's negative 3. Negative 3 plus 2, that's negative 1. Negative 1 plus 6 is going to be 5. And what was I adding? I was adding the x squared. Notice this stayed the same. Okay, that stayed the same. So the variable portion is not going to change. The big numbers are, because you're adding and subtracting. Okay, now let's take a look at them in an actual equation or an expression. Okay, now I like to kind of use a V to kind of help me find the like terms. And I also like to circle. So I have 2 plus negative 5. Now notice I circled the negative with the 5. Keep the sign with the number. 2 plus negative 5 is negative 3x. And then if I take a look at my numbers, I have a negative 3, a positive 8. So negative 3 plus 8, that is a positive 5. Okay? Now, this is important. When we write things, okay, when we write expressions, they are alphabetical. So we're going to go from A to Z by power. Okay? We're going to go from A to Z by power. So that means the biggest power gets to go first, and the last thing is going to be the number. So let's look at this next one and see if we can, because it's got powers, we can see what happens. All right, let's start with this guy. So I have a 3x squared. Where is its like term? Well, its like term is a negative 4x squared. Remember, I'm adding 3 plus negative 4. That's a negative 1x squared. Okay, now who do you think is going to go next? Do you think it's going to be a number or do you think it's going to be a letter? Well, if you said letter, you're right. And the only letter I have is this negative 2x. Does it have any other friends? It doesn't. So it's just going to drop. So minus 2x. Okay, last but not least, we have the numbers. So I'm going to add all 3 of them. 5 plus 8 plus 8. 5 plus 8 plus 8. That's a positive 21. Okay, positive 21. Now notice this goes from 2 x's, and technically there's a 1 right there. So 2 x's, a power of 1, and no x's. So this is negative 1x squared minus 2x plus 21. This is standard form, okay? The most powers to the least powers. Most powers to least powers, and it's alphabetical because they're all x's, so we're good with that. Okay, now let's do a little bit of review on distribution because we're going to see that as we move forward. So we know that when there's a number on the outside of the parentheses, this is actually multiply. So there's a 1 right here. So 5 times 1 would be 5, and 5 times 6 would be 30. Okay, so this is called the distributive property. Okay, the distributive property. So that is when you multiply the outside number by everything on the inside number. Okay, everybody is going to get a piece of what's on the outside. And we're going to use a distributive property a lot when we are combining like terms. So let's go ahead and distribute. So 3 times 2, that's 6x. 3 times negative 5, that's a negative 15. Is this one finished? Is it in standard form? And does it have any other simplification that needs to be done? There's no more x's, and the x's come first, so this one is done. All right, let's do the next one. Negative 3 times 4, that's a negative 12x. A negative 3 times negative 5, that's a positive 15x. A negative 3 times positive 3, that's a negative 9. Now, if I take a look at this one, I see that these guys are like terms, so they have to add. Negative 12 plus 15 gives me a 3. And my minus 9 is going to drop. And remember, the x's are going to come before the numbers. Okay, so this one is finished. 3x minus 9. Okay, let's make these a little bit harder. See what you can do. So I'll help you with the first two, and then I want you to see what you can do with the next two. So let's distribute. 18, 21n. I'm going to drop that sign. Negative 5n. We are not done. We have a like term and a like term. So negative 5 plus 21 is 16n. Drop my plus 18, and I am finished. This one has a double distribution. Negative 54m. Negative 9 times negative 3 is a positive 27. Plus 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. All right, looking at this. There's an m, there's an m. We need to put those together. Negative 54m plus 24m is going to give me a negative 30m. And I also need to put 27 and 6 together, so plus 33. So that one is finished. Okay, hit pause, and let's see what you can do with these last two. Okay, let's see how you did. 10 minus 45n, and a negative times a negative is positive. So these two are going to go together. I have a negative 45n plus 55. So hopefully that's what you came up with. Okay, distribution. Negative 10. Let me minimize this here. Negative 10n plus 20. Remember, there's a 1 here. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. These two go together. And I'm adding. So negative 8n. And the 20 and the 6 go together. Plus 26. If you came up with negative 8n plus 26, you are a rock star. All right, you're ready to roll. Let's see what you can do with combining like terms. Take your time. Remember, variables get to go first.